Oh, hey there. Welcome to Good Enough Garage. We are about to start on phase 2 of the electric truck project. Now, technically, we're jumping on to phase 2 with it already being in progress, as we have already replaced the BMW throttle pedal with the Honda Fit One, and we had the rear gears replaced from 352s to 411s. So yeah, anytime I start a new phase of the project, or any project in the garage for that matter, it always starts out with this nonsense of hours of cleaning up, sweeping, vacuuming. I'm not always this clean or precise, but I wanted to share with you kind of that I take this stuff seriously and what goes into it. We are going to be exposing some electronics, so you want to have a nice clean area as much as possible. Another reason why I want to shoot this video and share with you the process is to run some ideas by you or share some thoughts that go through my mind as I build. So one question is, when is the right time to take on a project like this? And the answer is never. It will never be a good time. So just do it. Those of you who have followed me may recognize that I am in a different house, different garage. And so yes, I've moved recently. I can't even remember the amount of times I've moved in my life. But anyway, new garage. This is going to be a first big project in the new garage. And so I'm kind of getting adjusted and trying to figure out where I want things. So I'm going to unload what I'm sure you will recognize, my infamous wooden stands. I'm not sure if I'll need them, but I brought them along just in case. So something I'm thinking about getting are called wheel dollies, and I'm sure you've seen them. You pop them underneath the four wheels and you can move the vehicle side to side. So I'm in a bit of a confined space. This is a 3-car garage, and I would want to move the truck out, work on it, and then push it back. All right, guys, so let's talk about the objective of phase 2, or this part of phase 2. There's 2 things that we need to accomplish, okay? And 2 things only. One is replace the battery pack that's in there with a bigger pack, and 2, enable the second motor inside of this transmission by locking out the input shaft. So I share this with you guys because it's very tempting during a project to take on too much. One of the things I pride myself on is defining a scope and sticking to it, okay? So you have to have a bit of discipline as you do these types of projects. And this is why I bring you along, is to keep me honest, okay? And keep me focused and on point. And some of the other things that I'm tempted to do, but I will avoid in this part of the project, is replacing the B&M shifter, which I really dislike, with one out of a Chevy Blazer, I think, that I picked up in a junkyard. So it's very tempting to want to do that. But something like that can snowball really easily. And you can have this domino effect, because I'll tell myself, okay, well, in order to take out the old shifter and to install the new one, it will be much easier if I remove the seats. Now, if I remove these cloth seats, why don't I have them already upholstered and put them in as leather, so that can send the project budget, through the roof? Or I'll say, let's take out the seats and then buy new ones, have my eye on some aftermarket brand new seats, but those will probably come with different brackets. Then I'm playing the game of installing new seats, then installing a new shifter, and it's not quite a easy, adopt a GM shifter to a Lexus transmission. There's going to be the challenge of designing new bracketry, laying underneath the truck, figuring everything out, the geometry of the shifter cable or the shifting rods, what have you, the levers. So that's one thing I want to avoid. We are not going to be replacing the shifter at this time. Another thing that I'm kind of tempted to do is replace the perfectly good and working Chevy Volt battery charger and DC-DC converter with a different unit, something like a Mitsubishi Outlander, which I installed in the Rabbit, which then consolidates those two functions into one piece of machinery. But again, now we can play the game of domino effect again, because do I want to roll my own software, some sort of control for it, or do I use a zombie? This truck predates the zombie verter as far as the VCU, because the zombie wasn't available yet, and I really like the controller that's in there now. Now in phase 3, I do plan on going to the zombie, but I don't want to do it now. So that's another example. I don't want to change the charger, and then I don't want to change the VCU at this time, and God knows what else will pop in my head as I take on this phase of the project, but I want to avoid doing it. I think another thing I want to do, something in terms of aesthetics, is ditch the current two-piece lid for the battery pack and install a single piece, nicely, not really molded, but bent, pre-bent, to fit perfectly over that battery pack. But I don't know if I want to do that, because when I go to that cover, I'm planning on then mounting the charger underneath the battery pack and not top of it, to avoid putting unnecessary bolt holes in that nice aluminum cover. So those are just some thoughts that are going through my head. Again, in the comments, if you hear me talking about in new videos, future videos, about wanting to do some of these other tasks, set me straight. That's not the point. We want to do this fairly quickly, get in, get out, enjoy the truck. All right, so here we go. Nice thing about having a truck is that whatever we take out from the engine compartment, the motor compartment, we can put in the bed of the truck. Something that I like to do is anything that comes off of the right side of the car goes on the right side of the bed. If it comes off from the left side of the vehicle or the driver's side in the States, goes on the left side of the bed. And then inside the bed, I kind of organize it from front of the car to the back of the car or the truck. You get the idea. I'm also tempted to remove the hood. When we were building this truck, I didn't have the hood on, and it makes it quite better and easier access. But I'll try to avoid that. Again, this is one of those things where you guys come in and say, nope, we're leaving the hood on. So here we go. I'll bring you in here so you can see what's going on. I think just like on any project of a regular combustion engine vehicle, disconnect the battery and go from there. I just remember we do have to drain the coolant. A lot of these components are actually liquid cooled. So yeah, let me bring you in here. So first, allow me to go over the components for those uninitiated. Some folks may be new to EVs, electric vehicle conversions and such, so we don't want to leave them behind. So what we have here on top is a DC-DC converter. This is equivalent of an alternator in an electric car. Electric cars still have regular car batteries. Obviously, this is a car battery. This here is a Chevy Volt battery charger, and this is also out of a Chevy Volt. So this has to be removed. the charger has to be removed because our batteries, these are the batteries right here. You can see 3 of them. They live underneath the charger, underneath the DC converter, underneath this aluminum plate, which I call the battery tray lid. Okay, you may see some black hoses here. These are for coolant. The charger is liquid cooled. The DC-DC converter is air cooled. This box here is what is called an inverter, and it changes direct current, which is how we store energy in a battery, into alternating current, which is what powers the motor. The motor inside the transmission is an AC motor, alternating current motor. There's actually 2 of them in there. So we may have to loosen this. I don't know if we have to remove it, but these 2 components do have to come out. We also have a radiator here. This is a stock Chevy radiator, and we have to drain the coolant. On this side, we have a Prius electric power assist for steering, power assist steering, and we have manual disc brakes in the front and manual drum brakes in the rear, and this is an OEM stock master cylinder. I've attempted to install a Tesla iBooster in here for electric brakes, and I've failed at that a number of times. That's something I'm also tempted on doing again, but again, it's one of those things we will not be doing in this phase or this part of that phase. Okay, so I'm going to disconnect the battery, and then I'm going to start draining the coolant. In electric vehicles or EV conversions, you have 2 types of electric systems, electronics if you were, or electric wires. So their orange stuff is high voltage. We're running at around 400 volts in this truck. And then the black wires are low voltage, powered off of the 12-volt car battery. Some of them run as low as 5-volt systems, some 12-volt. You get the idea. But for safety, we're going to disconnect the battery. Which terminal you guys disconnect first? Positive, negative, and then which one do you connect first when you install your car battery, the positive or negative? I heard world wars have been started debating that. Okay, so our car battery is disconnected. Now I'm going to dive underneath the truck and start draining the coolant. Well, nothing's coming out. That's not a good sign. There it goes. I wish you could see the placement of the drain in that radiator. It's spitting it right on my steering box and then the frame and just going all over the place. So that's an epic fail. Thank you, GM engineers. So I think the next thing I'm going to do is actually label my own connections. I built this truck, but it's been over a year ago, maybe as long as 18 months ago. And sure as shit, I will not remember where things go. It seems so obvious right now, but I don't think I'll remember. So I'll bring you in here and we'll start unbolting things and labeling them. So usually small items like this, the radiator cap, and then this filler, you can either put them back to where you took them out of or put them in the bed of the truck. I think I'm just going to put them in the bed of the truck for now. This is from the driver's side, and this is from the passenger side, so I put them in the bed on those sides because in case there's any more coolant that wants to come out, it'll be able to come out. Okay, after I disconnected the regular car battery and drained the coolant, next thing I'm going to do is disconnect the high voltage battery pack from the safety box. Just to be safe, there should be no high voltage coming out of the safety box with the truck off, but I know that I've sort of hardwired my DC-DC and also my charger to the safety box. I'm not proud of that, so I want to disconnect the batteries coming into this black box, which is a contactor box. So I'm going to do that next. I know you can never get things right when it comes to electricians and electronics. This is just a screwdriver that I put some shrink wrap. This is very heavy duty marine grade shrink wrap on this screwdriver shaft, and obviously I'm doing it wrong, but it's working for me. Okay, so I'm going to continue on and disconnect the other side, and now there is no voltage that I should be getting to the DC-DC converter or the charger. Of course, we can confirm that with a voltmeter. And these are keyed so that you cannot plug in your DC-DC converter connector into the chargers, and these are keyed as well, so you can't mix those up. Plus, this one has 2 wires coming in, this one has 3, and then I think this one only has 2, but they are keyed and different. So this is the DC-DC converter. This here is the battery charger. I try to use stock connections wherever I can, as you can see here. This is all stock. This one here is also stock. I hope you can see those. So what I've unplugged here is CAN bus, car area network. So this is what controls, sends some logic and intelligence to the DC-DC converter, and we get same type of stuff, also CAN going to the charger. Okay, so as I mentioned, I am going to label these just using some painter's blue tape and a Sharpie. I'm just going to write to where these go to. I'm not sure where they're coming from, and I don't really care as long as I know where I put them back. So I'm going to put on here DC-DC ground for the black wires. And it doesn't have to be pretty. And trust me, you think you will remember until 6 months from now and, a bunch of beers from now. So that just says DC-DC ground. And yes, I know some are really obvious, but this saves you a lot of frustration and time later. So basically, I'm just using this stud as a sort of junction block. Okay, this is a ground that this thicker wire runs to the negative on the battery because this is what charges my battery, and this is also it's how it gets its ground, and I think it shares that ground with the charger, I think. And then this is the positive terminal. So this is a black wire here. This is why I put red shrink wrap on it, see? Because this black is actually my positive. I wish this whole thing was red, but see how this part is red? So this is actually a positive lead here. Having said that, I still have one more true black wire here that's DC-DC ground to label. Okay, so those are those. And then I'm gonna snip that. A zip tie, fellas. I'm using zip ties. What a hypocrite. Okay. This right here is just a long cable that goes from the J7072 charge port to my charger, okay? So that's what that is. We can actually, just for funsies, we can fish it out. Okay. And now we have these. So I'm going to label these DC-DC positive. And maybe tonight we'll yank something out. And of course, that big one. You can tell by how dusty my truck is that it was a daily driver, you know. When I needed a truck, I drove it. I don't generally drive any of my vehicles that much. But I did put on over 2,300 miles on this truck, the way it sits. Okay, I think we can undo these two nuts and loosen those up. 13 mil. And then I'm just gonna put it back on there. I did have locking washers on those. Okay, so now we have to go after these two acorns here. This air-cooled DC-DC converter is secured down with at 4 points. It has 4 little feet. So we'll go ahead and do that. I think I need an extension here. And yeah, earlier in the video I mentioned that these two pieces I would like to replace with one piece. So these are both out of a first-gen Chevy Volt. They're CAN bus controlled. I want to replace them possibly with a Mitsubishi Outlander charger, which combines these two functions, two rolls into one box, which is about this size, and then that cuts me down on space consumption and also less things to wire. And although I didn't have to plumb this thing, it would mean that there's only one thing that needs to be water cooled. I think for some reason the acorns on this side are a bigger size and bigger bolt. I think the holes were bigger, so I just honored that and I put bigger bolts in there. And this truck is a hodgepodge of standard and metric nuts and bolts. If you're doing conversions in the States of older cars, that may be unavoidable. Perhaps in Europe, you're just running metric. But we play this nightmare game of which standard is it. And as my buddy Seth says, we like standards so much, we have many of them. Okay, as always, I look like I've never undid a nut before. Okay, so I think in theory, this just lifts off. Okay, so there it is, our first component removed, a air-cooled first-gen Chevy Volt DC-DC converter, aka electric car alternator. So we're gonna go put this in the bed. Our DC-DC converter goes in the bed of the truck. Okay, having put that in the bed, now I want to just put these parts back on here. So I can put my washer and my acorn just back on there. And I know this is boring and tedious, guys, okay? But enjoy your cold beers, hot teas, whatever, and we'll get through it. I am also tempted to re-engineer some of this stuff, but I've done it before where I doubted myself. And see if you agree, but sometimes when you design stuff, like your first instinct, your first idea is your best idea. Okay, so that is out. Okay, guys, we're gonna remove the charger next, and the charger is a bit more involved in that it has a coolant line coming into it and running out of it. So I am going to undo those next, and hopefully we're not gonna dump too much water into our battery pack. Cross your toes. Oh, got pretty lucky, I think. Can I shove this out there, out of the way somewhere? Perfect. When it comes to these hand slicer clamps, okay, I don't like using flat screwdrivers on them. I always use a socket. Makes it a little bit nicer, easier. Okay, I'm gonna probably tighten this so I'm not looking for it later. Let's see how lucky we get here. I should probably remove it from the inverter up there so that it's minimizing the spillage. Maybe we'll try to do that. So this was on a loop, guys. It went from the Tesla coolant pump into the charger, through the charger, up to the inverter. You want all your cooling stuff to be below your highest point of the cooling system, which is the filler neck, really, filler point, if you can. And I think when I measured this, it was actually pretty close. But I mean, I had to have this as high as possible to clear all the battery box. So it is what it is. Oh, come on. Oh, dude, you haven't been on there that long to get stuck. Oh, nice. Now it wants to leak some stuff. All right, paper towels are your friend. Come on, Downy, quicker picker upper. And this is why we have a battery lid. Of course, this is a two-piece, and I want to make it a one-piece, and I'll show you what I mean by it being a two-piece in a minute, or maybe in the next video. Okay, so the charger is held down, I believe, with only 3 feet, and are they all the same-ish? Where's this one at? Yeah, I think they're all the same-ish. So I put these acorns on there just to make it look nicer. Obviously you don't have to do that. It's just kind of an aesthetic thing. It made it harder because I had to make all the bolts a certain height. Otherwise the acorns wouldn't tighten down all the way. So it was kind of silly, but oh well. Okay, so on this stuff I had actually 3 washers underneath for spacing, and then a top washer and an acorn. Is that what I ran here too? Yep, 3 washers for spacing. Okay, put this in the bed of the truck. And here we go, the Chevy Charger goes in the bed of the truck. Okay, now I'm gonna put the acorns back on there. So washer, acorn. Okay. Okay guys, this may be a stopping point for us for tonight. We removed the DC-DC converter and we removed the charger. The battery lid, as I call it, is next. Okay guys, thanks for sticking with me. This may do it for tonight. I have to edit this video and then maybe tomorrow we'll shoot the next one, get the lid off. Maybe we'll get the batteries out tomorrow. Thanks for watching.